I feel like we haven't seen you all in weeks, but here it is. It's Monday night. It's 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. I don't know about you, but I'm filled with anticipation. It's Mission Log Live. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Norman Lau. Mission Log Live is our chance to check in with you, our Star Trek pals, to see how you're doing and see what's on your mind. The only way we can do that is for you to call us at 699-900-6833, or use the one tap from your smartphone, or click on the Zoom meeting link. Remember, this week's call-in does have a passcode conveniently displayed on your screen.
Now, we know you'll want to call in, and you better do it sooner rather than later. We've got a special guest with us tonight. Don't miss your chance to talk to the most powerful woman in the Klingon Empire. It's L'Rell. Well, it's L'Rell's alter ego and way friendlier. It's Mary Chieffo. We'll talk about performing and Star Trek fandom and disco and Star Trek Discovery because, yeah, I mean, we could talk about disco too if you feel like dancing. It's up to you. It's a live show.
I put on my dancing shoes, John. I don't know if we've talked about that. I haven't, on our shows when we usually talk about personal things, one of the things I forget to bring up is, my clog dancing, because it's something in the Filipino culture that I'm proud to, to say that I've gained some expertise in. I don't know about...
I always assume the only way you get through Mission Log and Mission Log Live is by wearing your dancing shoes every week, every time you record.
We're tap dancing over a lot of things. Thank you, everyone who is signing on in to say hello to us tonight, and to our guest, the lovely Mary Chieffo. John, tell us who's in the chat tonight.
It's so nice to be able to see everybody and say hello. There's Paul, there's Chris, there's Scott Palm. What's up, Scott Palm? Good to see you, my friend. There's Brian, there's Seth, there's Vicky, there's Carlos, there's John Cooley. There's Dominic, there's Cooley again. There's Casey, and there's Terrence, and special shout out to Tracy Lee Coco, Lieutenant Jay from Next Gen, of course. I wanted to also say hello to our guests. So there's Peter. There's other Paul. There's Paul 1, Paul 2. We're huge in the Paul demographic.
We are. The Pauls are big. The Pauls are big for our show.
Pauls. Chris Riker. So hello to everybody. Rick Carter saying we're back, baby. That's right. We are. So good to see all of you. Lou, yes, I can see you. You just said hello, John. Can you see me? Well, not you personally, Lou, but I can see your message. So great to see everybody. Thank you for joining us. And again, click on that Zoom link or use that one tap, or call us 669-900-6833. Don't forget that there's a passcode. You will then be connected to Earl, and Earl will connect you to us and our guest. Now, before we bring out that guest, Norman, there's a little bit of business to take care of, a little bit of what's coming up on Mission Log and Mission Log Live. And actually, with Mission Log, we just released our beginning of season 5 of Deep Space Nine. Very exciting there. But coming up, starting next week, next Monday, that'll be August 3rd, that is the kickoff to our coverage of Star Trek Lower Decks. So we're working on a guest for that show, kind of a little preview, pre-show for Lower Decks. Then tune into CBS All Access on August 6th, and we'll be back on August 10th to then start talking about those episodes in order with you, and we'll have a special guest host to do that week-by-week, episode-by-episode discussion. Looking forward to that, Norman. So sometimes it'll be me, sometimes it'll be you, but we'll have a guest co-host to introduce to everybody. Very happy about that.
Very exciting. Lots of Star Trek coming up, lots of Star Trek to talk about, and the drought is over because sometimes we're, without a Star Trek show, a live Star Trek show to talk about, live recorded Star Trek show to talk about, so it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then it just got announced today that Disco Season 3 at long last will start on October 15th, 13 episodes of that coming. So we're only going to have like a week maybe in between the end of Lower Decks and the beginning of Discovery Season 3. So a lot of Trek back to back right there.
What will we do with all that time?
I know, right? It's like we'll be busy for a change.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't we welcome our guest? I'm so happy to welcome to the show and introduce to everybody here. Gosh, where do I start? Juilliard graduate, singer, dancer, theater nerd, actor, fluent speaker of Klingon. I know, right? Let's just welcome our very special guest, Mary Chieffo to the show. Welcome, Mary. Oh, wait, Mary's muted. There she is. Right on.
I always like a little humorous entrance.
That was good. That was really, it was
Fashionably 2 seconds late.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a warrior's entrance. That's
Yeah.
what it was.
Thank you. Yes, certainly that's what I will tell everyone it was.
She was just putting her prune juice to the side.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Hey, I want to understand, I mean, there's so much that we can talk about, and of course we'll get deep into Trek, but I just want to know about you right now. Like, catch us up on life, because being an actor during what is sort of the weirdest time in any of our lives, what's going on? Like, how does that work, and how are you handling it, or not?
Yeah. Well, I think, safe to say, good days, bad days, as I'm sure we all have. But I have been feeling extremely lucky and grateful to actually have a lot of creative outlets during this time. I've been able to, I actually early on in the processing of all of this, I directed one of my best friends from high school, Remington Moses, and her friend Joe Baccia in a Zoom semi-staged reading of Gruesome Playground Injuries by Rajiv Joseph, which was fun. I had just directed Remy in New York for Frigid Festival in February, literally right before all of this.
Wow.
And she had been wanting to work on this play with her friend for a while, and we had really found that we worked well together in that director-actor dynamic. And, best friends from high school, like, we know each other really well. So that was an exciting creative endeavor that I got to have a few months ago now. I've been a part of the Bespoke Plays, is an amazing group that for the past 2 years have been doing monthly readings of new work. Christine Boylan and Ellie Pyle are the co-producers, along with Ryan McCurdy is their New York liaison. And I did an awesome reading of theirs, of Christine's play, Analog, this past October, with Alan Smith. It's an incredible, awesome two-hander, takes place in not so distant future, a Blade Runner-esque. I'm an engineer, kind of reversing the sexy robot trope with my AI. So I did that reading in the fall and fell in love with the whole group. But they have an incredible ensemble of writers and actors and directors. And during this time, every Sunday, we have sequestered Sundays where writers, a part of the group, will bring in work that they either a pilot they pulled out of a drawer, or a play that they've been working on, or just something new because they needed to get something out. And our ensemble will read it, and we'll have a great discussion afterwards. They're very intelligent theater people who love genre, which is like my sweet spot.
Right, yeah.
And all of the writers have worked in TV and film and theater, and it really has been my saving grace every Sunday to be able to be with them. And there's some stuff coming down the line that we've collaborated on recently that I'm excited to announce eventually.
Okay. Right.
So it's been a lot of that. I've been lucky enough that I have a lot of wonderfully talented writers and actors and other collaborators around me who are like, hey, let's try something. Yeah. And then, of course, just also trying to relax a little bit and be, just kind of with myself and reflect, which I do feel this has been a time of reflection in a whole new way. So I'm grateful for that as well. And then activism. I always label my years. I started a few years back. My best friend Justin does that, gives it like a title. And this year I named the Year of Action, which is interesting. And at first, come March, I was like, I don't know. But then I really did become more and more activated. I've always been vocal. Part of my love of being a part of Trek as a franchise is it's a platform that allows me to speak my truths and not feel like I know the true Trek fans will appreciate vocalizing for justice and equality. And I've had a new fire lit under me during this time. So trying to be the best activist I can be.
Nice. Activist. I like that. Make sure you trademark that and put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. I got to give some credit. I heard it first from Wilson Cruz and Anthony Rapp. They were some of the first people that I heard. So got to give them credit because they're amazing.
Nice.
Well, Mary, we have, in between our interview with you and having you on here, and we are so excited. We are so excited, but we're just as excited as our fans are who are lining up in our Zoom chat to talk to you. So I'd like to introduce you to our first guest who's been waiting to talk to you and to talk to us and talk to Star Trek. So let's talk to our first caller. Hello, Paul. Welcome to the show.
It's a Paul.
Hey, Paul.
It's That's awesome.
I know, Paul.
I know, Mary. And I'm used to seeing you with Aaron. It's so weird not to see you with Aaron.
I know. Love Aaron.
And I got to pass along to Norman and John. Great work on the latest episodes. You guys have really hit your rhythm with Deep Space Nine. Great stuff.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you so much.
I have this question that's been burning in my head ever since I've been watching Deep Space Nine a lot, and they talked about the Cardassian War ending. There will be songs sung about this day, right? So, Mary, you're in this huge now spot of Klingon history, right? As going forward, what is your song / opera / what is it going to be about? Let's get some words to it here.
Okay. I love this question on so many levels, and partly because I do want to say I'm a huge Deep Space Nine fan, and I am currently doing my rewatch as well. And so I'm very excited to catch up on all you guys have been talking about. I have yet to do it, so I'm very excited. But when it comes to songs, what I am going to give you is that a song that was developed very intensely by Shahzad Latif, Kenneth Mitchell, and myself in Dortmund, Germany after a convention. We made some concerted effort to come up with the best musical version of our upcoming episode. This was right before we started filming season 2. And truthfully, we didn't have a script or an outline. We just knew the general premise of who our characters were from either the past season or who they were about to be. And that weekend they had released the little teaser with just like behind the scenes stuff from the first few episodes. And there was a picture of Laurel's garden that had popped up that everyone screenshotted, and we're like, oh, there's a draft for like Laurel's garden. So the first lyrics of the musical are here I am in my garden, I don't know what to do. Tyler's here on Kronos, and he hasn't got a clue.
Bravo!
Wonderful.
I did not expect to get that tonight. That made the show right there.
I didn't know I was going to be starting with that, but I love that it's a whole great thing. Coleshaw comes in, he's like, you are a woman and you don't belong here. And then Tyler's, of course, dealing with his duality. And it's very fun. John Van Sitters, who of licensing, he was there. Love him. He's great. He was there that night and recorded 30 minutes of this brainstorming session. So we have been saying we're actually going to put something together at some point. So it might be true. But kind of more to your point about the epic Klingon moment, I do think there will be lots of... I felt that every episode was an opera. And certainly Point of Light was quite intense. And what did Shahzad and I said? It was like a Shakespearean Greek kitchen sink drama.
Wow. Let's say, hey, just to throw this in there, and you can do with it as you please. I'm not going to sing it because I'll be tempted to dance, and I got headphones on. But Chris Riker in the chat is suggesting, here we go, you can dance, you can jive, having the time of your life. See that girl, watch that scene, digging the Klingon queen.
Hey!
Mm-hmm. Chris, I think you just landed yourself a lyricist job on this thing. So good job there.
We will definitely be commissioning you for our full musical Klingon.
You got a bravo from Scott in the audience. So.
We need this in Klingon. You do know that, right?
Yes.
The translation, we'll see how it goes into Klingon, and then we'll,
Yeah. It'll be great.
It just sounds much angrier. That's, like you have this garden, but it sounds like an angry garden.
Yes.
pop open a couple of bottles of blood wine,
Yeah.
turn down the lights even more. Mary
Yeah.
turn down low,
Yeah.
turn them down even more.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate, you had the Kronos, the pronunciation or the enunciation.
Thank you.
Correctly, even though it wasn't done in the original Klingon, but it was,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do love doing that. And like discovery, because the S sound, like anytime that I can slip those little moments in there. And like Klingon is not Klingon, it's Klingon because it's that TLH. It's a little bit different there.
All right, so tell us about that a little bit, though, because this was a new thing that now you had a Klingon accent that was consistent through Discovery. Who's a linguist they brought in to say, here's how we're going to do this, and get everybody trained to that same level? Because, how did that go?
No, it's an excellent question. It's a mixture. So we have Robin Stewart, who is our Klingon translator, who speaks Klingon fluently, and is incredible. And she would get the scripts in English, then translate beautifully into Klingon. Like there were some translations because we would get the word for word, or we call back translations, and the syntax is so different. It is very Shakespearean in many ways. Some of the translations, I feel like, I wish the audience could read it in the original Klingon, like they could see the phrasing because it is more heightened. But so we would get that, and then Rhea Nolan, who was our on-set dialect coach, she would kind of take what Robin gave her, send us the back translations, and then depending if I was in LA before the episode was happening or I was already in Toronto, we would have a 2-hour session, so either on FaceTime or in person. And each actor had a different system. For me, it was really going those sentence by sentence. My example is Bichachmech Yamosh, which is to conquer, compromise. It's just like a very clear, like bichachmech, to conquer, yamosh, compromise. So I would go sentence by sentence, saying the English in the order it actually was, then the Klingon, and so forth. And Rhea would do the same. So I would be getting used to the meaning and where I wanted to inflect, and it was very much like working on Shakespeare in the sense of like it's a lot of foreign words, and you know that by hitting a certain rhythm, the meaning will be conveyed more clearly. So we do that, and then I would work similarly with the actual actors, who Shazad and Ken being the primary ones. We're so collaborative and always meet and do extra sessions because we wanted to be able to be, because on the day you're covered in rubber and you want to be able to be present, and that I'm just so grateful to them as scene partners. But to answer your question about the dialect specifically, once I started speaking English, that was a lot of me because I love dialects and I love accents. At Juilliard, as you mentioned, my strongest example, we did Dancing at Lunasa, which is set in Northern Ireland, and I was lucky enough to be able to like listen to all these great recordings of these Irish women from the exact area. Gillian Lane Plesha goes and interviews them, and then would do sound changes. So for each sound that had a slight differentiation from the standard American, she would make a note of that in International Phonetic Alphabet. And then I would go through that whole script and make sure that all those sound changes were marked so that when I practiced, I would have that. And then, of course, on top of the actual changes, you have to find that culture and the rhythm and the inflection. Like certainly with Irish, it's the, you're trying to be nice, oh, she's a bit ugly, isn't she? Which I have Southern heritage on my mom's side, and there is definitely a parallel there of like, bless her heart,
See, no, I'm from the South. I know what that really means.
Exactly.
Just like I'll pray for you.
Yes, exactly. So there's a lot of studying the Irish culture. I was like, I see that literally that when the Irish came over, they left some of that, what was it, the Irish stuffing, which, fun fact, Mary Wiseman and I were in that because we were in the same class at Juilliard. We played Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Good Lord. That poor teacher.
Yes, I know. Some powerful Marys. But yeah, we played sisters in that show, which was really fun. But with Dialect.
Did she have the big hair then? I mean, was her hair?
Oh, yes.
Oh, my
Always.
God. It's like so much hair.
Something that we really bonded over was we had the same name, but also she had her, tremendous, beautiful hair and energy. And I had my height and my energy. And, I think that there's something about anytime you meet someone who has the same name as you that you can't help but be like, hey, there's something going on here. But I always found that, we've always had a deep mutual respect for each other's craft. And, we have so many different strengths that are both parallel each other, and we stand at our own power very differently at different moments. But and our casting has a certain interesting Venn diagram, and I think we both want to keep stretching ourselves in multiple directions, and are we've had a lot of really great conversations about how do we keep pushing those boundaries about what people assume based off of what they see, and all that we're capable of. So I think we're both really rooting for each other in that way, that we're so grateful, particularly being on Discovery, to be like, hey, we're playing these archetypes that we can do, and let's keep pushing it. So it's been an amazing experience to be on a show with one of your classmates is the most wonderful, wild thing ever. And I felt like it just made that first season in particular so much more digestible, because it was so much to take in at that point.
Did you both know at the time, oh, hey, we're each up for a role in this new sci-fi thing?
No, yeah. So because the Discovery main cast didn't come until the third episode, I was cast first. When they were looking, I was cast very early on because they needed to cast physically the Klingon. So a lot of the prosthetic characters, we were one of the first on the cast list, because they had to they're like, oh, this works. You're tall, you're angular, you can speak Klingon. Hopefully they're like, she's done Shakespeare, it's fine. But so that was and I did have to keep that under wraps after my initial casting, but I think it was around September, October of 2016 when that was revealed. So she was aware, but then she didn't tell me when she was auditioning, because NDA, and also, don't want to jinx it or whatever it is. And the way I found out was, we were filming, I think, the second episode, and I went down to the costume shop with Shazad, and they have pictures of everyone's headshots who's cast, and their number and whatever. I looked up, and distinct headshot. I was like, wait, who's that? And the costume people were like, that's Mary Wiseman. She was cast yesterday or whatever. And I was like, no, I know her. And they're like, that's lovely. I was like, no, we were in class together. And so I took a picture of it and texted her and was like, oh my God. And then we chatted briefly on the phone shortly thereafter. And then she was up in Toronto, I think a week or so later, for prep for the third episode, which then I wasn't in. So we kind of crossed paths. And then, of course, we never were in a scene together. But we had a lot of time, on days I wasn't working, or, and Sanika was so good about getting us all together for dinner or movie nights or game nights or whatever. So, we were able to kind of just hang, which was nice too, that we could be going in during the day and learning and being on set and figuring out what that's about. But then we just got to kind of just be with each other as people outside of that, even though we were aware of the fact that during the day we were in space.
By the way, quick shout outs here to the chat. David said that you should teach a class in Klingon, to which Chris said it would be pass or die. So I think that's a good point. And
I love it.
Shout out to Mickey, who made your Batleth. Mickey from Make It So, that is SEW, and she's watching. So yeah.
Thank you, Mickey. Katlo, as we say. Thank you. Which is a rarity in Klingon to say thank you. And it came out of
slit in your throat.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wow.
Yeah. I beg your pardon. I do think the one time it's been said was Laurel said it to Vogue in the very sexy dilithium processor scene in the fourth episode. that he's, he says, I'm lucky to have you. And she's like, thanks. But that's a fun little bit of trivia. But to the dialect point, I have a friend who says, like, if we're going on tangents, it means we're having a good time. But with the dialect, once I did speak English, I worked with Rhea and we created our own dialect sheet. Because I was like, hey, this is how I like to work. I want to feel, because I know and respect how much the fans pay attention. As I've said, proclaimed geek myself, I wanted to do due diligence. And I went through, actually, I have it right here. Well done, Mary. My Klingon dictionary. Which actually, this is the cleaned up version. I don't know where the other one, I have one that's literally falling apart because I went through it so much, but I got a nice clean one.
Nice.
But in here, they show you, I love it. Here,
It's show and tell.
they've got in the vowels section, you don't have to read it. I'll just tell you what's on there. But they have one sound for each vowel. So like, the A is the ah as in psalm, never as in the American English crab apple. So I went through and similar ones for each, the o and oo. And so I went through all those vowels and, we had to approximate because it had to sound intelligible, but making it that at least the core of those vowels and like the discovery and, that Laurel was used to making sounds in a more intense way or only that very clear O, because that is how dialects occur, is that the person is used to speaking a different language that has different sounds in it. And so that's how it occurs. So we really did go in and just play with it. And Rhea was so incredible. I mean, she's amazing when we were having to speak Klingon because she's there like making sure that it's all the right, and there are differences. I have been reprimanded. And it is funny because Robin will then listen to for the ADR and stuff. And sometimes we get a note where she's like, this is a lovely, but it makes it a completely different sentence, if you know what I mean. And we're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, Klingon's living on the edge.
But what you're describing is I just trying to wrap my head around that. So an actor's job is to first and foremost, play the emotional reality of the scene. Okay, so that's your job. But then you've got the English version of the words being spoken in your head, which you have to do in a made-up language. This made-up language then has rules of a dialect that you've imposed on this, and you're doing it under pounds of makeup and a leather costume. And, I mean, I can't imagine where you would find the focus to do that, because it's quite a job.
Well, thank you. I agree. It is a large task, and something I would say is I am a big energy person, and I felt that those helped me focus, honestly, that there was an element of I had to just focus my energy and be present. And I think often in my human acting work, I allow myself to get distracted by too many things. Like I want to make sure things are clear and I'm kind of moving around. And I've obviously worked on that and in school and in the training, I know I can discipline myself to be that, but my inclination often is to make sure it's clear or really go there or give everything. And so in a strange way, the prosthetics, the outfits, informed me so much into who Laurel was and how she carried herself. And because she couldn't turn her head the way I normally would, or couldn't flail her arms the way I normally would, I mean, I'm sure that if there were less constrictions, I probably would have come to that level of conclusion of interpretation because of who the Klingons are historically. But I found that certainly in character development, I think you have to yes and it's funny because we know each other from improv, and I've been doing more and more improv in the past 2 years, and it's been amazing. But that mentality of you don't want to watch an actor struggling, as much as it may be painful and sweaty and gross, and I can't hear half of what you're saying because there's sweat sloshing in my head. That's not what you want to see. of course, it'd be great if none of those obstacles were there, but that is the case. So why not use it? Why not let it be a part of the creative process? I say our limitations often liberate us. So, and sure, like I say all that, and there were days where I was like, but the crew takes such good care, and I have these there are a few pictures I think circulating of me like on those wooden, I forget the exact name, but they used it for like Frankenstein
you're
monster
on the leaning, what were they called?
Yeah, and then
instead of sitting, you have to lean on a.
Yeah, you lean and you have your arms up and you're like kind of sitting on like a bicycle seat, and like I would have like a fan blowing and ice packs on my hands in between takes and all that. But I learned more and more how to ask for what I needed. I'm not one to be overly demanding for the sake of it, but I learned how to be like, you know what, Mary, if you're cooled down between takes, you're gonna be happier later and your performance is gonna be better. So just ask for those ice packs and they will happily give them to you. So it was a real learning process in that way.
Yeah, I mean, we did get your writer for this interview, and I hope that, you got the green M&Ms and everything.
Oh, yes,
everything to your liking. We want to have you back. Yeah.
My protein balls.
Right. Hey, Paul, any other thoughts on your mind tonight before we say goodnight?
Well, just put a bug in Mary's ear. So now that you have the music, I think you need to figure out who you're going to cast as yourself in the opera, and we'll leave it there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and do that on the cruise next year. Pull them out of the audience. There you go. See you guys later. Trek one.
Okay, bye. Great to see you. You see that? I was like, whoop.
You recovered.
Yeah, I'm Klingon. Right. I'm doing my best.
Hey, we're going to take just a moment here to remind everybody about Roddenberry Podcast Network and the other great shows on the network. So, Norman, if you would do the honors, please.
Well, you can always find all of our great shows here on the Roddenberry Podcast Network. Just make sure that you follow us at roddenberry.com, where we have those fantastic shows like Women at Warp, The Trek Files, your daily Star Trek news, and, of course, Shabam. And you can find all of those again on roddenberry.com. And, of course, our show, Mission Log, our standard show, Mission Log.
Hey, yeah, I like that show. Speaking of Mission Log, and you said something about doing a rewatch of DS9. I did not know that. How far along have you gotten? Is this is not your first time watching it?
It is not. I have watched every Klingon-centric episode from all the different series. That was my initial mission when I was cast. I wanted to watch every episode of everything ever because, that's how I roll. But I was like, Mary, discipline. And so as a consequence, I watched a lot of Deep Space Nine because there's a lot of Klingon in there. And then I really just got so into the show itself, Deep Space Nine in particular, that I pretty early on started watching other non-Klingon episodes. But that's why I really wanted to do this rewatch, because I didn't watch as many of the first few seasons. So this has been really fun. And even so, it was 3 years ago. Right. So and you see one here and there if you are on the cruise or whatever, it's playing in the background. So it's been a mixture. There's some that I know and a lot that I don't know, and it's been awesome. I'm only I think a little over halfway through season 2 right now. I started just 2 weeks ago or something. But it's been great. And I was saying the other day on Twitter, you just are going relevant, the whole time. You're like, yeah, that tracks. Anyone else? Yeah, cool. Good. Glad we're.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about that fandom, though, because you said that you're a sci-fi fan and a Trek watcher and from way back. So what did you grow up watching, and what were you into?
Yeah, I grew up a little bit more on the fantasy side of things. I was very much into the Chronicles of Narnia. I was into Harry Potter. I was right at that cusp of growing up with both with the books and the movies. So that was just a very particular journey that I went on. But I always loved sci-fi. My dad's a big sci-fi lover. And so he would introduce me to, various movies and shows that he loved. But yeah, my specific Trek origin story was kind of later. I was aware of Trek always, as I feel like most people are. But it wasn't until the reboot films that I went to see the 2009 film, and because that was the type of movie I wanted to go see. And I was just like blown away by this chemistry of the cast and like these, knowing that, okay, this is coming from the original and these characters already. So I got that sense because I felt that the nostalgia in that was very like that sort of like, oh, these are people that we all know and love and they should all be together and doing things. That was kind of what I walked away with. So as a consequence, my dad then had me watch the original movies and episodes from the original series because I needed more Spock and Kirk and all that. So that was kind of where I lived with the show for a while. And then it wasn't until I was cast that then I started doing the full rewatch or the Klingon watch, right. And really fell in love with all the different shows for the various reasons that they're all wonderful in their own right. And then really got sucked into Deep Space Nine in particular. But then, since then, because I really did respond to how the stories are told, I've just, gone back and watched more and more. And I love hearing people's recommendations, like, what are your favorite episodes? And I'll go watch them. And Erin, who Paul mentioned earlier, Dr. Erin McDonald, astrophysicist and now official science consultant. Yes. She has a brunch that she does with her friend Samantha where they talk about certain episodes. So we watched the Redemption episodes and talked about those. And, it's always fun for me to have someone be like, hey, watch a few of these episodes and let's talk about them because there's always something exciting and fun to pine. I also really grew up with like Greek mythology and Norse mythology and just all those sorts of like mythological storytelling. So that was very much like that's the types of stuff I love and why I love the Klingons.
I have a question here about the Klingons. So in mining all of that, you're going all the way back to the original series and watching Errand of Mercy with the great John Coliclos playing Kor. Mm-hmm. So him being the first Klingon and you being like the most modern version of Klingon, how did you kind of like bridge that gap? What did you take away from his performance and the Klingons from the original series? And then how did you want to bring that into where you were in Discovery? I mean, was there a process there? Was it easy? Was it difficult because they were so far apart?
Yeah, I mean, it was such an interesting task because we were both a prequel series, but also the most recent series. I think, and obviously, as the actor, they're like, and this is what you're going to look like. And you're like, okay, I'm going to make this work. Just in like, I thought it was really exciting that they wanted to go so far into the alien look and very much, Neville Page, the creature designer, talked a lot about really this reptilian sensory in the back of the head, like why the ridges exist in the first place, sort of exploration, which we kind of had this like tango during the first season where I'd started doing this head tilt and he's like, oh yeah, that makes sense because you're actually taking that. I'm like, oh, cool. That was, but I will say in watching those episodes, and part of why I wanted to have the dialect, because it is 10 years prior. And, there's, as Glenn Hetrick, the other creature designer, has talked to, like the Empire is so expansive that we really wanted to embrace that idea that we're seeing this particular section and particularly the House T'Kuvma and we're the outcasts. And like there's a lot of interesting stuff to play with there. But why I wanted to have the dialect was I wanted to believe that you're witnessing Klingons who haven't been exposed, but for whatever reason, we're going to find out, or there will be some sort of justification for why they end up looking and speaking the way they do outside of the reason that we know in reality. But something that I think you see in all the Klingons, and you see that, what the TOS Klingons inspired in then the TNG Klingons and motion picture Klingons was there is a Shakespearean quality, a stoic, a pride, obviously a dignity. And so that was certainly, I wanted to embody that element, because that to me felt like the strongest through line, having then once I did watch every single different iteration. That was, I thought, the strongest through line with all of the actors, was they're standing in their power, even though there are struggles within it, and you have some rogue Klingons, and I can get all into the patriarchy and the treatment of female Klingons. Surprise. But something that is like innately true in all of them is that pride and honor, and so that was it's fun to play with that. But anyway, it was an interesting task because, again, visually and physically, I needed to embrace what I was literally embodying, while also keeping an eye on where we were headed.
I'd love to talk about fandom a little bit, because you talked about, the Klingons were this and they're this, we're doing our own thing, but we're trying to honor this. And look, Star Trek fandom is legendary for the minute something gets announced. It doesn't matter if they shot one frame of it or not. Star Trek fans have already formed an opinion. And then after that thing comes out, they will continue to fight and nitpick about it all day long. How do you, as somebody who is on the inside, and first of all, a Star Trek fan, and second of all, somebody who's taking this opportunity that you've got very seriously, does that stuff just sort of, like, do you tune it out, or does it come in and do you pick and choose what you're hearing? Like, how does that affect you or the other people on the production?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, because I think I'm still figuring it out. I certainly, part of why I did do all that research and really, like I said, wanted to make the dialect as authentic as I thought possible, because I wanted to at least be able to stand in my truth that I had done what I could. And that it was out of respect. It wasn't just like, haha, look at me, I did all my work. It was like, knowing at my core that was my goal allows me to take in the negative stuff with a grain of salt, and understand that certainly on the internet, what we witness all the time is, and I recently came across a few instances where I think people will be extremely aggressive and catty and sassy, not expecting a response. And what I found is, not just for the sake of scaring the bejesus out of them, but to genuinely engage in conversation if it's a valid enough claim. Like, if someone's just being a jerk, they're being a jerk. But if someone's making a statement, and there were a lot of instances, I think, early on where, because of the way a headline was phrased, or, clickbait-wise, people were like, well, clearly she hasn't done her research. And I'd be like, hey, actually, I did watch all the Klingon-centric episodes, and I really do respect the culture, and I'm doing my best to, and then be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was a misleading headline. I'm like, I know, I agree. But so I found that more often than not, people will respond to genuine conversation and kindness if that's your real intent. So I really try and lead with that as best I can. Of course, I'm not perfect. And of course, there are days when someone's being sassy, and I'm just like, you know what, man, I don't come to your Instagram and say that.
Right.
But I've been like, I think also Laurel serves in that, like, she's pretty intimidating. So I don't think people like bully me or Laurel in the way that, other people may be. Although, I think more often than not, people would make comments about choices, again, outside of my control, like the aesthetic or, story. And so for me, it's always about answering it to the best of my ability as the actor portraying the role, and not trying to not take responsibility, because what I'm learning too is like I was saying about asking for ice packs and stuff, like, I'm learning more and more through this experience how best to advocate for one's character, and, where to, contribute to the conversation and where to hold back. So I feel so lucky that I've been able to learn all of that in this environment. But yeah, I mean, it's tricky. Luckily, I think that there are far more kind, excited, enthusiastic fans than there are not. And also acknowledging that if people don't understand the basic tenets of Trek, and are upset that we're embodying them, then that's really not worth arguing with. Like if you can't understand that infinite diversity and infinite combinations means we have to keep pushing forward and create more and more diverse casts and more diverse behind the scenes, I think that then you're dealing with the wrong franchise.
I mean, it's almost kind of like part of the contract, or you sign on to be part of the Star Trek family as a professional, and then, by the way, this also comes along with it, so for good or for bad, you still have to kind of incorporate that into your lifestyle, and hopefully that doesn't, dissuade you from the positivity of your experience, part of the process.
Yeah. And our whole cast, the Discovery cast, is so geeky and enthusiastic overall. I've been lucky to be surrounded by peers that had a similar energy about all of it. I think it would have been different if I didn't feel comfortable with the people I was doing these conventions or panels with. But luckily, having that physical and moral support has meant so much.
Well, I was going to say that kind of on the more positive end of the discussion. I've been going to conventions a long, long time. I have never seen a cast have more fun at a convention than the Discovery cast. No lie, because you can kind of typify, at this point, the next gen cast is sort of the old pros. Mm-hmm. They're sort of the not the elder statesmen, but the statesmen of the convention. The DS9 casts are all very professional. They're all very theatrical. They all kind of have a similar background. Enterprise, it was great to see the love shown to that show, because I think, again, on the internet, people would just trash it, and you realize, oh, wait, people actually love this show and they love this cast. You guys come in and it's just a party. I hope that never wears off, because y'all are having the best time.
Yeah, we've got but living up to our disco name, right?
Yeah, truly, yeah.
We mentioned my necklace, but I decided this is a jumper that I wore to the very first Vegas convention. I was going through, it's interesting choices with Zoom. It's like I want a nice top, but I felt nostalgic because it's about 4-year anniversary of going to that. And this was the first one I wore on the panel. So it was from that panel onwards, just a party.
Had you been to a convention at all of any sort before you were cast in Star Trek?
So I had grown up going to San Diego Comic-Con, actually. Okay. For various reasons. My best friend Eve, who is still my best friend, who actually went on the cruise with me the first year.
Nice.
Her parents are visual artists, and so they would have a booth in Artist Alley. And then my mom was a part of a few projects throughout the years that had a panel or a screening or something. So there was oftentimes, there was a period of time where I felt like at least 5 or 6 years where we were pretty much there for a few days, if not all. And these were very formative years. And I was, so into genre and so into sci-fi and fantasy. And even I would run around in the hall and at Hall H. I actually, this came up last week because people were talking about favorite Comic-Con memories and stuff. And when 2 years ago, 2018, San Diego Comic-Con, I got to be part of the disco cast panel and press day. And be in Hall H. Literally, I remember standing way in the back of Hall H and peeking in. I think I remember one specific. It was Terry Gilliam talking about something. It was such an incredible moment to be able to then actually be on that stage and be a part of that panel. So that it's been pretty neat to have that kind of come to fruition.
I hope we get conventions back.
I know.
Nice to be able to do it in person again. And,
I know.
I also want to talk about your time at Impro, because somebody asked, who was like, "Whoa, Mary does improv," and so Mission Log's connection to Impro is we were hosting or co-hosting these Discovery screening nights and then Picard screening nights, but then and you came to some of those, but then you performed with the Improvised Generation and with Ripley, so some of the same cast members from that. Just tell us real quick about that. Had you done much improv before?
No, I had, with any scene study class, and Juilliard is definitely like, we have a lot of physical improv and a lot of mask work so plenty of opportunities in the classroom where you are improvising and creating a character and finding out what's happening, but never had any disciplined, actual outright improv class. And I had been very intimidated by it in general. I like structure in case that wasn't prevalent in this conversation. But the reason why I really responded to Impro once I got to know both their shows and started taking their classes is because it's genre and it's narrative, and that it's about telling the story and being present with one another and not having to go for laughs. Because I was so the immediacy of like, have a quick joke and do the thing and then write your screenplay and then you're going to be a star kid. I was just like, I can't. I get too stressed already. And so I feel like and I wouldn't know about Impro if it weren't for Star Trek, because Eliza Pearl, who is the captain of the USS McGinley on TIG, we met at the season 1 premiere of Discovery. She interviewed me on the carpet for Nerdist, and then we talked at the after party, and we exchanged information. She invited me to CTIG. I went to CTIG, and there was a Ripley show of glam. And Ripley, for those who don't know, all-female, awesome group. Most of the women who are part of Ripley are the women in the Improvised Generation. And so I had a double feature that night, fell in love with the school and the actors. And then, that last year in February, I guested on Ripley's Glam. And then March, I believe it was, I guested on TIG, which you can check out on YouTube. And that was a really, really fun show. Because as the guest star, you are kind of neutral and then the character kind of reveals itself. And I ended up being the ruler of a different type of planet. And it was just goofy and fun. And but I did all of that before taking class at Impro. I did like the reverse, and then I started intro, and now I'm currently taking over Zoom. I'm in their third core class, story core. And I just finished their character core class all on Zoom, which was awesome. I have an amazing class. They're just super present and funny and collaborative. And it's been that, like I was talking about Bespoke, that and Impro have been a huge creative oasis for me during this time. And they're doing shows. Anyone who wants to check it out, they have a Twitch channel, and they're improvising genre shows live, and their tech is live. I mean, it's incredible, and it's just a wonderful community. Everyone is so, wonderful.
Now, as far as I know, you're the only Trek professional who has done a Star Trek improv as well. I mean, you bring a totally different layer of understanding to this, but you're completely out of your element too.
Yeah. Well, it was great because it's TIG, so it's a next generation, different timeline, or not timeline, time period, not different, not the Kelvin timeline. No. I know myself. But different time period, and the structure of those shows is so distinct, which was so fun to play that act structure. Like it's just so innate, now they're going to be discussing the species and now we're on the planet. Oh, now the B plot's going to go. That was what was so thrilling about doing that particular improv was I know that structure well enough that I was very trusting of my instincts.
That's very cool. Very cool.
In the Zoom type of improv, because I know that actors love playing off the energy of each other. Mm-hmm. So how does that work? I mean, how does that dynamic work? Because you can't really feel that energy. You just kind of have to play off of what they're giving you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. Whether it be improv or these various readings I've done, I have found that you're more successful than not if you're really just being present. With improv, it's great because you're not bogged down by any sort of script. So you really end up getting kind of creative and like, oh, what happens? Like this character's up here, or like, this character's way back here. Like you actually end up creating a vocabulary with the camera that you wouldn't normally if you were working, in a classroom, which, both have their, my dog is barking. We have some raccoons next door. It's a whole thing, but we won't get into it. They're fine though. No one be worried about my dog. There is a large separation. She's just fascinated. But yeah, I have found that while I, of course, yes, miss being present and having that energetic conversation with a scene partner, there are new strengths, like this yes and mentality of like, yes, this is the obstacle I have right now. So how can I make it work to the best of my ability? And because I directed that piece early on during this process, I got to, as a director, sit back and see two actors work things out and see how they found a way to be present with each other. And I've honestly, I feel that I've learned more about my craft this year than I have in a really long time as a human. Like I learned a lot as Laurel, and I definitely learned stuff that I take with me in my human work. But it's been a really interesting time to come back to how I move through the world as a Mary-like character.
Well, Mary, we have 5 minutes left, so you're ready to think on your feet, do a little bit of improv right now?
Yeah.
I got a little bit of a surprise for you, and I got a little bit of a surprise for John, because we haven't done this in a while.
Oh, no, yeah. You're talking about the lightning round, right?
It's time for the lightning round.
Because, I normally it's my job to let the guests know about the lightning round. I've been in touch, and I apologize. Look, it's been a long few months of quarantine. Things slipped my mind. So we're gonna do a little lightning round, I guess. Yeah,
we'll make it work. It sounds very Klingon.
Yeah, lightning round. Here we go. Let's spin the wheel. Let's see what comes up first. Who's your captain? Who's your captain? Who's your favorite captain?
Janeway.
Good answer.
Nice. Good. Yeah.
Good. Okay, this is going to be a tough one. Klingons, hair or no hair?
Hair.
Okay.
Hair Klingons and Janeway. Very good.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We're 2 for 2. All right. D7 battle cruiser or cleave ship?
Oh, cleave ship.
Yeah. Okay. Just ram that thing. Yeah. Okay.
Get in there.
Okay. Here we go. There's another tough one. Get in there. Here's another tough one to get in there. Vogue or Ash Tyler?
Vogue.
Ooh. Okay.
Laurel has some regrets.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Captain Giorgio or Mirror Giorgio?
Oh, Captain Giorgio. I would have loved to spend more time with her.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Okay. So this is a tough one because you might spend a lot of time in either one of these places. So choose wisely. 10 forward or Quarks?
Quarks.
Good answer. Okay, and at Quarks, maybe blood wine or a Nay's fruit forward but not too aggressive Cabernet.
Blood wine.
Okay, serious, yes. Yeah. And then the final question that we end every lightning round: have you been to Vulcan, Alberta, Canada?
Yes.
No. Yeah.
Yes.
I
went to Volcon last year. I was a guest at Volcon.
You did.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, I was so disappointed to see that they had to cancel it this year. Of course.
I know.
How it did change your life? Was it great?
It was so cool. It was one of my favorite convention experiences because it's just all about the Trek. It's this wonderful small community. And I really got to interact with everyone. So, personally, and I got to go see where Nimoy had put his fingerprint and put my hand there and all the little light, what is it? On the street lights. What is
street lights? Is that what we're
street?
saying?
I guess the street lights have little.
We'll go with
they
that.
have starships on them, and it's when they've got murals. They have a wonderful, gorgeous mural of all the doctors. It's really, really awesome. I had a wonderful, wonderful time.
You go up on the board as like the third guest who has been to Vulcan, Alberta, Canada.
Yes.
So, very good. Everybody else is a listener. Where we're trying to put together a bus trip there one day, and we'll just all spend the weekend in Vulcan. Hey, we've got like 2 minutes left, but Lou getting in here at the last second. Lou from Canada is going to say hi to us. So, Lou, you are on with Mission Log Live and our special guest, Mary Chieffo. What's up?
Hey.
Hi, John. Hi. Okay. Hi. Hi, John. Hi, Norman, and greetings, Mary.
Greetings.
I was most fascinated in. I'm not used to talking this quickly. I was most fascinated by your work at Improv. I studied at Second City myself and
cool.
theater. And if stages ever open, we'll be doing some courses in whatever future time is happening. You miss people? Do you miss people? I miss people. I miss actually seeing people, not just performing for people, but seeing people within, touching distance.
Yeah.
I guess, how is TV production going down there? Or is it going at all? Because we're starting to open up tiny auditions, virtual auditions, and commercials where we're spread enough apart. So
I do think things are percolating. I mean, I'm very much on the sticking at home side. Like I'll be the last one to leave my house, but I do know, I mean, obviously it depends on the situation and if people are taking the proper safety precautions. I do know that there are shows and things that are starting to happen with the right precautions. But yeah, I'm not too privy to them. I've yet to be involved with one. I'll learn more if I'm involved.
We're the last one stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But my hope is that people, will be safe and will be responsible, and also will recognize if, in a few weeks' time, if they're starting to do stuff and realize that they really need to pull back, then they will. Because I hope that we embrace Trek ideals in, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So that's very much how I hope everyone conducts business these days. But but I do agree. I look forward to the time that we're back in theater spaces and working together in person.
And because our border is closed, it's not going to be easy, because we're asking you to come up, and then we're saying no. We shut down. Hey, if we can shut down the major leagues, MLB, we can get rid of everybody. I do want to point out, I think you, I love the fact that you do improv, but what struck me most, and what I know it's a tangential bit of fandom, but you look so much like your mother, who I am a big fan of, Beth.
Thank you.
And you may tell her that it will mean nothing. Absolutely nothing. But I have instructed my agent, if there's a chance to get on this go, to submit me, because we're right here.
Yeah.
There's like 10,000 of us that are willing to walk on the set for next to nothing. So
exactly. And are you in Toronto? That's where you are? Or are you?
Yeah. They won't let me leave.
Right. Yes.
They go anywhere.
Lou, we're up against the clock, my friend. Thank you so much for calling in, and we'll do it again soon. Okay, we
got it in the nick of time. Okay, nice talking to you again, John and Norm.
Nice seeing you, Lou.
Bye, Mary.
Take care. Take care. Hey, so take care, everybody. By the way, Norman and Mary, glory to your house.
Yes.
So we'll say goodnight to everybody. Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Executive producer producer Rod Roddenberry. Technical production on Mission Log Live is by the incomparable Earl Green. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from the Roddenberry Podcast Network. If you'd like to support Mission Log directly, give us a look at patreon.com/missionlog. Thank you to everyone who joined us live or later. Stay safe, stay healthy. We look forward to talking with you next week.